All right. All right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to 2022. We are in the new year and we are getting ourselves in gear. We are kicking off this morning a 6-part series called Ignite. We're calling this Ignite Sprint. So I know a lot of you, several of you in years past have participated, and sometimes it's 4 weeks long, sometimes it's 8 weeks long, with Bold starting in just a few weeks. We wanted to get everybody up and running, starting the new year with just the bare necessities when it comes to Ignite, and nothing is more important to our business than what we're going to talk about today, which is lead generation. We say that you have 2 jobs. The first one is lead generation, and the second one is helping people buy, sell, or invest in real estate. And very excited to have our instructor today. Hopefully many of you know him. If you don't, you should. Just a few days shy of 16 years licensed in real estate. Is that right, Eric? I was looking you up this morning. I think it was January 9th of 2006.
That actually sounds correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So lots of experience in the real estate world, and lots of experience helping other people build their businesses. So for those of you who don't know, Eric is our productivity coach in the Pepper Pike office, and he is responsible for a lot of people's success. I know he won't tell you that, but I will tell you that. He's an absolutely incredible coach and a master of lead generation. So before I turn it over to Eric, I got a few housekeeping items, and then we are going to dive in full force for this session today and for the whole year. So real quick, the format for our time together, please plan on being here for all 6 sessions. This is going to be active participation. We're going to do 1 hour of instruction from a really talented instructor. And then we're going to go into breakout rooms, and we're actually going to lead generate every week together. And so we're going to go into small groups, and you're going to have the opportunity to meet and interact with other agents in our office, and then pick up the phone and start dialing and immediately applying what you're learning. So for our time together, 1 hour of instruction, 30 minutes of breakout, and that'll be for all 6 sessions. And we will keep you all together in the same groups every single day so that you can build a little consistency and community there. The final thing is, as much as you can, I know it is the first official day of the year. We won't count Saturday and Sunday, but if you can, turn those cameras on, be engaged, unmute, get in the chat box. Let's make the most of this. The more we participate, the more we are going to, the more we're going to get out of it. So that's enough of me talking to you guys here. Enough of that on the regular. I'll now turn it over to Mr. Eric Uchbar to take us off for today.
Thanks so much. Well, good morning, everyone. So glad to see all 55 of us today. It is great to see that everybody's so excited to jump in the new year and get started. And I want to have your first note today. Like Mike said, it's real easy to get sidetracked in the industry and say, you know what? I hit that first Ignite. It went well, it didn't go well, whatever happened, and go, well, geez, I don't know, that second session, I don't know, that third session, I don't know. Tammy Youngst is going to be on our Tuesday meeting tomorrow. She had a large impact in my life. I would encourage you to get there to the team meeting, and that's virtually. And Tammy said one thing in Bold. I took Bold, I think 6 or 7 times now. And like maybe my 3rd or 4th time I took it with Tammy, and she said one thing that really hit home with me. And I'll be talking about that today if you listen closely. But make sure you're there anyways for the Tuesday meeting. I'll go into what Tammy told me further on in this session. But have that first note. I will come to all 6 sessions of Ignite, what is it called? Spark Ignite, Ignite Light, Ignite Sprint.
Sprint.
Ignite Sprint. I will come to all 6 sessions of Ignite Sprint. You're going to be lead generating along with the top agents in the office. How many of us have ever said, well, you know what, I would like to lead generate, I just don't know how. I would like to lead generate, I just don't know what to say. I like to lead generate, but we can't do that. We have to just lead generate, and you're going to be doing it along with us. Lastly, before we get started here, I want to make sure that everyone is aware that when we go into these breakout sessions, that's not a time to shut your camera off or even turn it on and then just start socializing with your small group. We need to be getting in and actually lead generating. I know that might be a little bit scary. If you were in the room with me, what I would actually do is I would actually stand at the doors and say, like, all right, we're going to lead generate. You're not getting out the door. That's not a bathroom time break, right? We're actually going to be lead generating, making some calls. I promise you, it's not going to be as scary as you think. I always jokingly say nobody has actually died by doing it. We've all made it out alive. So we're going to continue on with that. All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. According to my Ignite material, I'm supposed to introduce myself. As Mike said, this is my 16th year I'm going into the business. Started right when I was out of high school. I was a mechanic for a very short period of time. Still work on cars, still have a big passion for working on cars. And that's part of what fuels me to have bigger goals, is to be able to enjoy that industry more. I actually got into the business, though, to invest. Many of us probably have that same goal. Raise of hands, the ones I can see, if you are interested in investing in real estate. Awesome. We should all have our hands up by that. By the way, we really need to learn how to invest. We will be doing some coaching sessions here on Wednesday sessions. If you need more information, just send me an email. I'll type it in the chat here, and we'll make sure you get invited to that. Let's put that in here. Anyways, got my license. So once I had my license, I said, well, you know what, I may as well use this thing. I became #1 producer in my old office by actually coming in every single day and lead generating. It's very odd that so many agents don't actually want to lead generate. They don't actually want to get into the business. They think that this business is, looking at granite countertops and telling buyers and sellers how fancy they are. That's not what our job is. Our job is not as fun as what it looks like on TV. Our job is to make phone calls. Many of us may think too that, and I shouldn't just say make phone calls, it's lead generate. And according to Gary Keller, the definition of lead generation is to do anything that generates a lead, right? So we're going to talk about what that looks like. But anyways, that's a little bit about my background. Let me see if I can share my screen and get to, Mike, could you pass over the ability for me to share my screen? Or Carrie?
It's going to be a carry item this morning.
All right, well, we're going to go, if you have, I hope you have.
Okay, you should be good. Sorry.
Thank you, Carrie. Let me go ahead and share here, see if this works. I want everyone to have their Ignite material up in front of them now. When this happens, I can't see all of you. Go ahead and type in the chat box if you have any questions. We will be taking a little bit of time, if we have time at the end, to go over any of those questions for all of us. All right, so we talk about the 5 money-making activities of a real estate agent, and this kind of goes over these items. But we're going to be going over during all of Ignite a lot of these items, but I want you to really think about on the left side that we're looking at right now, lead generation. What does a successful agent do every day? Lead generate for buyers and sellers, make seller listing presentations and get listings. Number 3, make buyer presentations and get listings. And number 4 is preview real estate. That is what successful agents should be doing to grow their business. Now, the other thing on this, this goes back to pretty much everything that we talk about in any type of business. We either are growing or maintaining it. I share a story that, when I first bought my house had a ton of landscaping. It had 100 yards of mulch, over 100 yards of mulch. And I realized that if I just went ahead and I took all the weeds out, grew the bed, made it nice, put all the plants in, and then just ignored it and moved on to another bed, by the time the end of the season was done, that first bed was grown over with weeds, right? So we can't just focus on growing, and we can't just focus on maintaining. We need to have a combination of the two, and that's what this talks about. That way we want to grow it, we want to get the mulch down, we want to get the weed preventative down, move on to the next one. Then all we have to do is maintain that, just check on it, pull the weeds that we need every now and again. But that's our differences, right? So we're either growing or maintaining our business in the real estate industry. So again, growing is lead generation for buyers and sellers. We're going to talk about that here momentarily. Notice too that sellers and listings keep coming up on the first three. There's a reason for that. We really need to be focusing on that. We'll talk about why here momentarily. Running the business. Now, we're not going to be going into this today, but I want you to be aware, if you're focusing on only running the business, you're trying to do what I did and just maintain items without growing it, right? We don't want to just maintain our yard. We actually have to grow it and make sure that it's actually up and running and that we're making progress, right? If we don't have any progress to be made, we have nothing to maintain. So what does that look like? Marketing our seller listings. What does that look like? That's going to be sending out blast emails to all the agents that we all get about a new listing hitting the market. That's going to be contacting buyers that we met at a recent open house. It's going to be putting up on our social media new listings. That's what marketing seller listings is. Notice that is not part of growing the business, that's running it. Number two is going to be showing buyer houses. Number three, negotiating contracts. Number four, transaction management to closing. We talk about the magic 6 in coaching. Those are the 6 items we do immediately once we get a house under contract, and then checking on those on a daily basis. Number 5, vendor management. Number 6, we need to be setting goals. Number 7, compliance and risk management. Number 8 is going to be attend training and get coaching. Number 9 is going to be managing money. Remember, we are no longer employed by someone. We are self-employed individuals. We have to be managing our money. Most importantly, we just ended the year, meaning we've got a couple months left until we have to report to who, how much money we make. The IRS, right? And so often, especially when we watch so many agents that will go through, Ignite, and we go through Ignite and we go through all of these different types of training sessions, and then we realize, whoa, we made a lot of money this year. Guess what? If you make $100,000 in real estate, you're probably going to owe somewhere around $20,000 to the IRS, right? We're not used to that in other industries. So don't be like most agents and actually get ahead of that and pay your quarterly taxes, talk to your accountant, and make sure that we are ahead of that, not behind it. Let me just go through the comments real quick, see if there's anything before we move on. You guys are getting the material here shortly. Meanwhile, go ahead and take great notes, and we will go from there. Very good. Let's move on to the next slide here. All right, so we're going to be talking about the lead generation model. Lead generation, we're going to be talking about database, a sales pipeline. You'll hear me preach this so often in group coaching. We talk about our sales pipeline. Our one-on-one agents report weekly to me. Where is their pipeline? If we are not growing our pipeline, we are genuinely shrinking in the business. And that could mean that you have 7 pending deals, right? And if you're not growing your pipeline, all of those pending deals are coming out of your pipeline. And guess what? You're going to be broke 30, 60, 90 days down the road if you stop lead generating. We need to continue on that. That's one of the hardest things for agents to realize is they start to taste success. And then all of a sudden it lowers down. I had one of my childhood neighbor, an elderly gentleman that I just sold his house. And he goes, Eric, I don't know how you do it. He goes, in real estate, it's got to be very difficult to, 1, succeed, but number 2 is continue to succeed, right? And that's what we're going to be talking about with our sales pipeline. We're going to have a little bit of a recap at the end here, and then daily success habits. Super important that we're doing daily activities. And it's okay if you're part-time. There are so many part-time agents I've helped go from part-time to full-time, and we'll talk about how we did that today. All right, this is, I believe, Gary Keller's, or at least Keller Williams, lead generation model. It's kind of a sketch here, and I think it's really important that we understand what he is referring to here. So often we have agents who only lead generate and they'll end up failing, or they only do what's called lead follow-up and they end up failing. This talks about lead generation to lead follow-up, getting the appointment, getting it active under contract, and getting it closed. So what is the difference between lead generation and lead follow-up? One second here. Got to move a taskbar. Oh, Carrie, are you also letting people in?
Yep.
I know it kind of makes it odd when I'm the host of the session as well. So thank you. Anyways, we've got lead generation first off. Lead generation, you can write this down. This is Eric Uchbar's definition. I'm sure Gary Keller's is right around there, that it's anyone that you have not spoken to in the last 6 months, right? That's lead generation. So these are new people that you're talking to. Where very often people go, well, Eric, I'm lead generating. I'm talking to the same 3 buyers every single day. That's not lead generation. We need to be talking to more people. Now, I want you to really think about, who are you talking to today about real estate? If it's somebody that you've already spoken to, you're not growing this business, right? You're just maintaining it like we talked about before. And by the way, I like lead follow-up way more than I like lead generation, but we cannot lead generate unless we have somebody to lead follow-up with, right? So, that's our lead generation. Now, once we have their leads, we want to get their contacts, and we talk about our offering, or what we call in coaching, our value proposition. This is the answer, and we talk about this in depth in productivity coaching. How do we answer the question, Eric, what are you going to do different than any other agent out there? And if you're fearful of that question, you really need to dial in what's called your value proposition. What are you offering to your clients that makes you unique? More importantly, that helps them. Let me rephrase that. What are you doing that's going to help them get their goal, right? Very often we think it's about us and what we're doing and how we're perceived, or how many homes we've sold, or if you've been in the business 6 months or 16 years. That doesn't make a difference. The question is, what is the action that you're going to take for that client? I promise you, you new agents, I'm sure there's plenty of new agents in here, you are going to be working probably 5 times harder than an experienced agent, and you need to use that as part of your value proposition. There's nothing wrong with that. There are advantages that you have being newer in the business. There's advantages that you have by having fewer listings, right? You have way more time for each listing, where a lot of agents who carry 30, 40, 50 listings, they don't have time to touch base with their clients 3 times a week. You do. I'm not saying that you can continue that, for the rest of your career, yet you can now, and use that as an advantage. So anyways, that's your contacts and your offerings. By the way, also another major mistake we see often is an agent will get their brand new business cards. They're super excited to hand them out to everyone. And that's great. More importantly, when you give that out, get their contact information. Say, I would like to exchange business cards with you. And that's where we talk about our pipeline. We're going to be going over it again here in that shortly. But remember, write this down as a note. Never just give your contact information. More importantly, receive their contact information. One great way to do that, by the way, is I'll actually just pick up my cell phone and say, hey, I'll text you my card. The reason I do that is that way I know that I've got their information. I know they're not lying to me, because guess what? That text will bounce back if they're giving me a wrong number. Great way to go to an open house and actually say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, seller, whoever we're talking to that walks in the door, here's my contact information, or would you like more information about the house? Send them the listing. Share it from realtor.com, share it from your KW app, share whatever you possibly can. Share the property disclosure from your phone. As long as you get their phone number, now we can do some lead follow-up. And that's where our cultivation comes in. That's number 4. My favorite part of it. This is really where the meat of the business happens, right? Lead generation is pretty easy. It sounds scary, yet it becomes pretty easy and pretty more or less boring. As Gary tells us all the time, fall in love with the boring, because it will become boring. I know it's exciting, and it might even be scary when we jump into it later today, but we need to be going, hold on, what's really at the end of the day here for myself and the client. And then also realizing that the cultivation, the number 4 spot on this is where a lot of the fun happens. So what are we going to be doing during the cultivation phase? We're going to be reaching out to that buyer and seller pipeline that's constantly, looking at, they're possibly looking at a house. They might be saying, Eric, I'm not ready. We're having this conversation all the time. Eric, call me after the 1st of the year. Guess what? It's January 3rd. We can now call them, right? Even now those excuses have turned from wait till after the holidays till, you know what, Eric, it's snowing and cold outside. Or I'm just going to wait until A, B, or C item happens. Let's wait until the spring, but sometime between now and probably July, they're going to be interested in selling a house. If you have not spoken to them, meanwhile, you have already lost. So we need to make sure that we're paying attention to that and cultivating them. We're going to be sending them listings. We're going to be asking them. We don't just wait for them to ask us to go on an appointment. We tell them, hey, I'm available tomorrow at 2:00. Would you like to go see a house? I'll be in the area anyways. I've had a lot of agents succeed by just saying, hey, you know what? I'll go ahead and I'm going to preview this house. I know you're looking in Cleveland Heights. I'm going to preview a house in Cleveland Heights that just came on the market today at 1:00. If you want to join me, you're more than welcome to. So we talk about in coaching often as well that even when an agent a buyer comes in at an open, we can still cultivate them, right? Even if they say that they have a realtor. Now, if they say that they're exclusively signed, hands are off. Yet if they go, I've got a realtor and they're with that one company, I can't remember the name. And you go, well, what's the realtor's name? And they go, it's that one guy, you know him, right? They don't have a realtor, okay? It is completely fair game for you now to cultivate. Worst case scenario, you send them to a house that they end up buying with another realtor. It took you 5 seconds. It's not the end of the world, okay? It is okay. More times than not, you're going to win because most agents won't do that. By the way, that big agent that they're talking about at such and such company, I promise you is not following up with them like you are. So if you do that at open houses and just check the daily hot sheets, by the way, you know where they're looking, right? You did an open house in Cleveland Heights. They're looking in Cleveland Heights. You can find every new listing in Cleveland Heights and email it out to them. We use what's called hot sheets on the MLS. Write that down and do some research on it. It's right on your first page. You can actually call the MLS and they can help set it up for you if you need. But you just click and it refreshes everything since the last time you looked. So over a long holiday period, you could look today and it'll say Jane and Sally are looking to buy in Cleveland Heights, and you can just click that and move on. All right, let's keep moving through here. We've got our appointments. By the way, that is where we really need to be focusing our attention on. Our goal is, yes, to get their contact information. And once I have their contact information, I know I can get an appointment. Yet I'm still always looking, how can I make sure that I'm getting an appointment immediately? Does tomorrow at 2 or 4 o'clock work better? Constantly using the close, and it's okay that they say no. Like probably 80% of the time I get a no. That is completely okay. It's going to be the follow-up over and over and over that's going to get them there. All right, then we go to active. This is mainly with listings. You could say that this would be in your buyer as well, that they're actively looking. And then we're going to move them to under contract, either by selling a listing or putting a buyer under contract. And then we obviously close the deal. And that's what, again, where our magic 6 comes in at. But yeah, mainly today, we're going to be focusing on the top of this funnel, right? Lead generation and a little bit of lead follow-up, but we need to be capturing them. As Jeff Glover says, lead generation is putting people into the funnel. Lead follow-up is going to be pushing them through it, right? It's a good way of a good analogy for that. All right. Well, so they talk about leads and contacts. So leads, they're saying one-way and offer-based touch programs. And then our contacts are going to be interactive and value-based touch programs. We're going to be talking about both of those here today. All right, so here's another common question that we get. Eric, I got into the business. I want to get into marketing. This is going to be people telling me that they want to do, it used to be ads in the Plain Dealer. That's no longer here, right? Or I shouldn't say that, but we're not really doing ads in the PD like we used to. It's going to be handing out business cards. It's going to be putting their business cards at the coffee shop along 40 other realtors' business cards. Those are going to be our marketing touches that we're putting out there. And there's nothing wrong with doing that. Yet I want you to pay attention to this third line here. We have long-term results. Something we talk about often is we talk about farming. Farming is going to be where we touch a neighborhood 12 times or 24 times a year. And that's going to be a refrigerator magnet with our face and name on it. It's going to be, a market update to the entire neighborhood of saying, hey, here's all the homes that have sold in your neighborhood. If you're interested, call me. By the way, you can do that even if you've sold no homes in that neighborhood, right? You can just update everyone and say, I'm going to be the local expert for Hunting Valley. If you live in Hunting Valley, you need to know my name. Jordan Schrober is doing that right now out of our office. I don't know if he's on the call or not, or on our session today or not, but he's doing great. Now, I was just talking to him, I think last week, and you'll see he does Cleveland Heights Facebook posts. Like he'll actually do like a small podcast on Facebook all the time. And he may have only 10 or 15 views on these. Yeah, he goes, Eric, probably, I've had 6 or 7 deals since I've started doing it. And that may not seem like massive success, yet it really is. 7 deals, average 5,000. I don't know what his average is, but I bet it's probably about $5,000 or $6,000 per deal. That's a big deal. Yet too often people would go, Eric, I'm only getting 10 views that day. It doesn't matter. We're going to be out there and people are going to be coming in, through that. I apologize. I have my phone on silent, but somehow it still jumps up on here. All right. So prospecting, which we're going to be doing today, is going to be more time intensive. It's going to be a proactive, and it's going to give you immediate results. That's the advantage, right? Is that we're getting immediate results. Typically, every time we do this, we end up having a roll call at the end, and we end up getting 10 appointments with a group like this, maybe even more. And many of those agents are going, well, Eric, I don't know that that's something that would actually happen to me, but it ended up happening. So, yeah, let me go back to the chats here and see if anybody had any questions. Okay, I just passed out 500 magnet calendars. I love that, Maria. I'm sure you're going to be getting some good business coming back from that. Young, you asked, can I repeat again about sharing a contact? Absolutely. So what I'm saying, any of my coaching clients are going to be like, Eric, shut up. You've talked about this a million times, but I'm going to go ahead and share it for everyone who hasn't heard. If you go to the top of your phone, you scroll to all your contacts, you just scroll all the way up. At the top is what says My Card. Go ahead and click that. There's all of your contact information. Make sure you don't have your password to your house garage code or something like that in there. And what you can do is at the bottom, it says Share Contact. You click Share Contact. And then you can do it in any of those. You can do an email contact. I normally just do a text message contact. It'll show up like this. And then you just type in their phone number at the top. Even often, I'll just hand the phone over and say, type in your phone number, instead of them, repeating it to me. Bernadette's laughing at me. And yes, that's going to be a very valuable way of getting a contact information. The moment I get that, I put them into my pipeline. I just know that I'll forget it if I don't do it right then and there. I'm out to dinner. I'm out meeting somebody. I meet somebody at a grocery store. They say, hey, I'm interested in buying, selling, whatever it may be. It's my job to then follow up with them. Okay. Hopefully that was helpful. Perfect. All right, let's keep moving on here. Our database. Often we get confused with what a database is. So our database can be stored in any way we want, right? We luckily there's a lot of other companies that there's Market Leader and all these other what's called CRMs out there. They usually charge anywhere between $500 and $1,500 per month. Let that sink in. $500 to $1,500 per month. And there's agents who have been buying those for years and years and years. Spend tens, 20s, $100,000+ on these. Luckily at Keller Williams, Gary has already developed this for us. And it's all for free. It's all in here, or it's in our technology fee that we already pay. And he's developed a really nice system in it. What it does, a database is going to centralize our information. It's going to update it regularly. It can be organized to meet specific needs. We have what's called smart plans on there. So what we can do is actually have any buyer that comes to an open, I can tag them as an open house buyer. And then every single time that a new listing hits a neighborhood of Cleveland Heights, because we keep saying that, I can just automatically say, hey, another listing came up in Cleveland Heights. If you're interested, please let me know. It can send it out by a text, an email, whatever you want. So yeah, it also lead generation feeds your database. So that's a really important point. And this is another reason why people go, Eric, you talk about for sale by owners and expireds often, and I do. Yet I can tell you that a lot of my database came from for sale by owners and expireds. If I'm going to be working a system and working individuals, I want to work with, number one, with people I know. And number two, I want to work with people that if I don't know them, they are interested in buying or selling right now. That's for sale by owners and expireds, right? So we can talk about that. But yeah, that's what a database is. It's a list of individuals that you know that you're going to market to. We say 36 times a year. Every person should hear from you 36 times a year. Now, that does not mean 36 phone calls. We're going to talk about a little bit about what smart plans can do to help us with that. But if you want to do 36 phone calls, go for it. I'm sure people have done it before. All right. Lead generation and contacts. And we are doing this on sprint mode, by the way. We've got about 28 minutes left, so we're going to be skipping over some of these slides. Yeah, contacts, it's a good point here. We want to make sure that they understand that they're going to be receiving permission on a two-way conversation. I'm not asking you to ask for permission from every single person. What I am saying, though, is a real contact. When we talk about contacts in the industry, it's going to be a two-way conversation, meaning if you just go to Home Depot and hand out 100 of your business cards, that's not 100 contacts, right? They're going to be taking your business card and just walking away with it and probably throwing it in the garbage can right inside. They need to be having a two-way conversation there. And in Command, there are certain items that you do need their permission actually to enroll them into different systems. All right, so 19 to connect and 36 to convert. I want everyone to write this down. 19 to connect, 36 to convert. What this means is if you have somebody that you never know, let's go back to the example that I meet somebody, and let's say I'm at Topgolf and I meet somebody. I've never met them before. I shake their hand. I say, hey, I'm Eric Uchbar. They walk away. I go ahead and hit my first golf ball. And my friend asks me, what was the guy's name that you just met? I will promise you, I'll probably forget their name by the time I hit my first ball. I'm sure all of us have felt that way at some point, right? So what's important, and we hand them our business card and we expect them to call us when they're ready for our needs, right? This is why we need to continue to contact them. So what I will do is I will put them in my pipeline. Now, I could do a quarterly phone call. I could do 12 monthly emails. I could do 2 touches and then a 1-touch event, right? But the point is, I want us to go into a real world experience of that person at Topgolf. I meet them, they're kind, I forget their name, but I have their contact information in my phone. I remembered it, I put it in my pipeline. I should say I remembered it, but my phone did. The following day, I say, hey, you know what? I shoot them a text. It was great meeting you at Topgolf. I hope you enjoyed your time there. And by the way, there's a sale at Topgolf going on this week, or there's a sale at a country club going on, or whatever that may be that you're sending it out to them. So that's your first contact, right? And then I put my name at the end of it, Eric Uchbar. 2 days later, I find them on Facebook. I click add. 3 days later, I go ahead and send them an email, or I find them on Instagram. 5th contact is going to be a real contact of, hey, I know that you said you were interested in selling. Do you want me to set you up on a portal so that every single week you get updated on what's happening in your market? Yep, they will. And we just keep going through, and eventually, do you think they're going to remember who Eric Uchbar is? They will. Every single time, if you create value for someone, you show that you care, trust, and help. If they know that we care about them, that they know that they can trust us, and that we can genuinely help them, they're going to work with us every single time. So that's the difference between lead generation, again, the lead follow-up. So once we've gotten 19 contacts, or we've gotten them to memorize who we are, we can then turn them into a 36 touch program. Now, what this means is if we market to somebody 36 times in a year, 1 out of 12 are going to buy, 1 out of 12 of those are going to refer. So that means 1 out of every 6 people you do that to are going to buy or sell a home with you, right? So all we have to do, if we're going to work this, is grow as many people as we possibly can and just remind them that we are a realtor. It's not that hard. I promise you, it's a lot easier than what I used to do when I would have snow falling down my back working on brakes as a mechanic. I promise you, making a couple phone calls, talking to people, enjoying life is much better. I know it might be boring, yet every time I ask somebody, would you rather do this or be at your old job? I'm talking to a lot of nurses recently. Would you rather be your 9-to-5 nurse? Would you rather be your whatever it is, or make 30 phone calls a day, right? It's pretty enjoyable. It's pretty fun. Then we just go out to go look at homes and go from there. Now, you don't have to follow this exact touch plan, yet I do recommend outlining exactly what you're going to do. Lisa Cisco is really good at this. Every year, right around this time, she'll actually take a list, handwritten list 1 through 36. and she'll figure out. 1 through 4 are going to be our telephone phone calls. The next 26 are going to be bi-weekly emails. And by the way, partner up with lenders, partner up with title companies. We've got GM Title, we've got Cross Country Mortgage sitting right behind us. They already send out emails to us. All you have to do is group their information and forward it out. Obviously get their permission. I'm sure they're happy to do that. And say, hey, here's what Sean Hadley said about interest rates in the next quarter. Here's the new programs that are available. If you're thinking about a renovation loan, here's what we've got going on. Again, the purpose of these emails, though, is just to remind them that Eric Uchbar is a realtor. Please use your own name instead of mine. 2 touches. We've got 2 events that we could do. We could do. By the way, we've got some agents who are getting really smart with this. You don't have to put on your own events. You could go and help other organizations, right? Something that myself and Pat, who's on this call, we both help out with the MS Walk in the April-May time every year. And you can just invite people to that, right? It's helping a good cause. You are going to be reaching out to people. They're going to remember who you are. The more centralized you can get into those, meaning if you want to run those programs and get the entire database that those individuals have and just make sure that you're coordinating and giving value to those organizations, by default, people are going to know what you do. People will. They will reach out to you. You will end up converting. And then for promotional, you could do, again, direct mail. You could do the marketing that Maria did. You could do a calendar. You could do a market report. Market reports are super easy. Don't get too crazy with them. People want to know what's happening in their local market. If you want to do all of Northeast Ohio, if you have a big enough database, you could do that. Hey, all of Northeast Ohio in the last 6 months went up 3%, 10%, whatever it is. Or if you want to get more localized, you can do that as well and do each community. By the way, in Command, you could do like each community, you could put a tag like Macedonia or East Side, West Side, whatever you're going to be doing. And you can just do an update for those specific individuals. Again, the more closer to those individuals, the more value it's going to give them. Yet, most importantly, we want to make sure that we have the ability for them to, sorry for that jumping up on the screen. We have the ability for them to realize that we're a realtor. That's really what we're focusing on. All right, let's keep moving through here. So tech demo, we're going to move through this today for the sake of time. We will be having Tech Tuesdays that we can add contacts to our database. Here are some different tags. I will briefly go through this, but if you want to do like tag colors, you can do this. So that way, if you want to say, hey, Cleveland Heights is going to be this blue square outline, you can do that. And then Shaker Heights is going to be red, because I think that's the color of a lot of their stuff they have in Shaker, orange, so on and so forth. Again, customizing tags, you can get as creative as you want with this. Let me go back. Oh, you can get as creative as you want with all these tags. You can go into when it was modified, when it was last visited, and you can create different plans that if somebody hasn't touched base with you in the last 90 days, you can automatically send it out to that. It's a live platform, meaning you don't just have to have saved items. People can get auto enrolled into certain smart plans because they haven't opened an email from you in so long. You could have their date of birth. Everybody loves to know that, they get a happy birthday email. I'm sure every one of us gets a couple happy birthday emails, but Command will do that automatically once you have it in there. Creating custom view of a smart plan. So this is on the different, if you go onto the top right, there's different ways that we can view what our smart plans are. Sales pipeline. So this is what we should be focusing on every single day. If we're not growing our pipeline, we are losing business, right? Every single day, we need to be growing our pipeline. Mike Ferry, a famous real estate coach in the business, used to always say, every day we wake up unemployed. And it's very true, meaning we have to go out there and find, when I was a mechanic, I didn't have to find the cars, right? In this industry, we have to find the cars. We have to find the people. So let's keep moving through here. Well, let me pause actually on the sales pipeline. So we should know at every moment, you can do this through Command, you can do it on an Excel spreadsheet, you can handwrite it on a piece of paper. Every single person on this phone call needs to have a sales pipeline. That is going to be a definition of people we believe will transact with us in the next year. You can write that down. A sales pipeline is a list of individuals we believe will transact with us in the next year. Now, understand that if we don't, if we're just saying, hey, Eric, I've got a list of people that I think are going to transact with me, but they don't believe that they're going to work with me, or they told me that they're working with another realtor, whatever it is, I don't care. We want to identify those individuals first off. And I want you to remember, if we're not growing that by 5 to 10 people per week, we're not where we need to be. The average agent that I coach that makes 6 figures usually has somewhere around 40 people in that pipeline at all times. It's okay that you're at 4 right now, or 2, or at 20. If you grow 2 or 3 per day, even 1 a day, you will get there in the next month and a half or so. But again, we need to understand, we need to grow that. Now, when does it start to shrink? When we start selling homes, right? They come out of that pipeline and actually go into our under contract. So we have to understand that when we see our pipeline shrink, we need to go, hey, I have to lead generate right now. And the way we do that in coaching is we say they come out of our pipeline the moment they go under contract. We don't wait for them to close, because that way we can identify, hey, my pipeline's starting to shrink. It's only down to 25. I better start working on more lead generation, not getting the 10 pending deals I have closed. It's amazing how quickly this works. John Murchison was on our Tuesday meeting recently, and he's in coaching, and one thing that he constantly looks at is how many people are in my pipeline. And all of a sudden, I think 3 weeks ago, he had 16 contingent properties, 16 houses under contract. 6 months prior, 1 or 2 under contract. So this works very well. We have to be focusing on it daily, and he usually lead generates probably 2 to 3 hours a day. If you're part-time, you should be lead generating somewhere between a half an hour to an hour, and about a half hour of lead follow-up. So let me see here. We've got about 10 minutes left. I want to leave some time for any ahas. Actually, we're already there. Look at that. We are sprinting. So let me go back to what I talked about with Tammy Youngst. We talked about how she's going to be coming up for Bold. I've taken Bold multiple times. I haven't taken Bold multiple times because I just forget it. It's because, like Kobe Socher says, there are actions that he took that he wouldn't have taken otherwise if he wasn't in that session. It's about an action-based series of sessions that you're actually in the business, not just learning, not what we call zooming our way out of the business. We're actually implementing what we do. And during one of the lead generation times, he actually lead generated as we should. And he made a phone call that he hadn't talked to somebody. The guy said he was interested in buying or selling, whatever it was. He ended up selling a house. And, Shoshana, I know she's on the call. She can type in the comments if this number's off, but I know I'm fairly accurate. Because he made that call that day, he made something like $22,000 or $24,000. And he goes, Eric, I would have never made that phone call unless I was in that room. Not because he didn't know he should, but because it forced him to get into there. Now, my 3rd, 4th, 5th time, whatever it was that Tammy, I took Tammy's session, I already knew everything Bold was telling us. Yet going back to the pipeline, she said one thing, and many of the coaching agents that I coach with understand how important this is, because I say it all the time, but there's magic in the follow-up. Stop just lead generating and saying that person didn't call me back, that person didn't do this, that person didn't do that, and try and replace that lead. No, you need to continue to dive deeper into that lead. We don't want to dig or drill 1-foot wells, 100 of them, right? We want to drill 10 100-foot wells, and every time we're going to strike water in every single one of those. So typically, one thing that I would challenge you while you're tracking your pipeline, I'll ask you, I'll actually, if you're in front of me, I'll go bring up your pipeline and tell me how many times have you contacted the buyers that came to your last open house. Now, if I see that you've contacted them once or twice or possibly even 0, that's our biggest problem right now that we need to focus on. We need to be contacting them typically 7 times, 8 times before they're going to set an appointment even with us to go see another house. So we need to be reaching out over and over and over to them and getting them to, to actually, convert. So, all right, so we've got recap, ahas, and time for questions. Let me check the chat box and see. Go ahead and unmute yourself now. And look at Shoshana. She's already typing in her touch plan. Guys, that is so important. Click that and actually use what she's got right here. All you have to do is click that link. Thank you so much, Shoshana, for sharing that.
Eric?
Yes.
My question for you is, are you still lead generating every day?
Yes, absolutely. Every single day we lead generate. How about you, Shoshana?
I am. No, I know. I'm asking just because I think it's easy to think that the business comes to you. So I was just curious what your practice is. And I think I saw Nancy on this call and other people too. Just curious. I'm just really actually coming from curiosity.
Yeah. So in the last week, I'll tell you, I have not lead generated. I took the week off intentionally. Now, lead generation also, as I'm sure Shoshana can preach to as well, as you do grow into the business, leads are going to start coming to you easier and easier. Yet I'm constantly asking individuals, that's probably been my biggest source this year, of just constantly, whenever I'm having a conversation with someone, I'm asking, who do you know looking to buy or sell real estate? Or I'll bring real estate into a conversation intentionally. That's going to be a massive way, but yeah, absolutely. He was so excited he dropped the phone. Oh, I remember that. That was downstairs with the orange desks, right, Shoshana?
Yeah.
So when he got that call, what Shoshana is saying is, I think he like jumped up out of a seat or something, and the phone actually went behind. It was on speakerphone, and he was like yelling down the back of the desk.
It's true.
Tell him like, hey, I'll meet you today at 2:00. Yes,
Eric, can you take the slide off? Can you take the slide so we can see your pretty face?
You can see my face the whole time.
Oh.
Can you see me now?
Yeah, good. Keep talking, sorry.
Perfect. I didn't realize you guys couldn't see me during that. Okay. What other ahas have we had from today? What are we doing? What are we not doing that we know we should be doing?
Eric, Nikki Briscoe, that statement you made shortly, a little bit ago, don't dig 100 feet wells, but just focus on digging 100 feet wells. So that kind of like hit me there, because a lot of times you're like, okay, didn't get a response, so you move on to someone else. So that stuck with me there. So focus
I'm glad.
And keep digging, keep touching.
Exactly. I always say this, there's always something we can do to give value. When we find the opportunity, when a seller tells me, Eric, I'm famous for doing this. Eric, I don't want to put my house up for sale yet because the roof isn't done. Perfect. I'm getting a roofer out there today to see if I can get you a quote, and I'll send it over to you. Right? Like, I'm not just like relying on the seller to say, oh yeah, let me know when you're ready. Like, that's creating value. That's helping them out. I'm not just pushing them because I want a listing. I'm pushing them because I'm saying this is actually going to help this individual. Take it off them. It's real easy. And by the way, roofers absolutely love us because we give them so much business. Keep digging after they say no and don't respond. Latanya, so true. I want to make sure that there's that individuals understand when I'm pressing that, it's not because, again, I want the sale. I'm looking to see how I can give the opportunity to give value, to help. We need to be focusing on how we can help people first, not make the sale. Our value will come back every single time. It's okay that they're not signing up with you. Don't even worry about the listing. One of my famous closing lines, which a lot of agents would probably disagree with me with, hey, I'll come over to your house tomorrow. If you're not comfortable with listing with me, actually, if you want, I won't even bring a listing agreement with me. I just want to see how I can help you first. Almost every time that'll go a long way. And I genuinely do. I'm just there to see if I can help. If I can help, and by the way, if that ends up you listing the house with me, great. If it means that I'm actually giving you a rental property or telling you to turn your house into a rental, great. That's the most important thing. Sean Hadley makes fun of me all the time because I always sell these crazy beat up homes and I make less money and I do 20 times the amount of work. But my clients love me for it because I'm constantly getting them houses that are, half price. And, even though it's a pain in the butt, they love that we're able to bring them to the finish line, and they're super happy a year from then. What else have we learned, or what's something that we should be doing that we're not currently doing?
Yeah, Eric, I'll give an aha from my end. Just it's around the pipeline, right? And I think so much of this business is challenging because you don't get paid for 90 days after you do the work. And so to see success in the short term is hard, but if you focus on, whether it's getting a deal pending or more importantly, getting somebody in your pipeline, you can show progress today. Like, and when we go into the breakout rooms, everyone in this call could add somebody to their pipeline, and that's a win, right? Because no one buys a house if they're not in your pipeline first. And so that makes it a little bit more attainable, right?
Yeah. I think that's a really good point. That was an aha that I just had too, Mike. Like, so often we watch agents who lead generate for 2 hours. I had an agent come in and lead generate actually for 8 hours straight. Locked himself in the booth and lead generated for 8 hours straight. After he got out of that booth, I asked him before, I said, how many appointments do you think you're going to set today? And he had some crazy goal of like 14 appointments. Walked out of that booth and he set 0. Now, does that feel like a win or a failure? Often we walk away going, I failed, I didn't get the appointment. The truth is, 6 months later, he still has set the record. I believe it was 8 appointments in a day he got. And the reason being is because he realized that even though it felt like a failure, he built those contacts that day. He built those pipeline leads. And I mean, still 8 appointments in a day. What would you feel like if you hit 8 listing appointments in one day? All listings, by the way. Yeah, I think like 4 or 5 of them ended up converting. That's a $40,000, $50,000 day. So it's possible. This is somebody that had 0 education in the real estate world, just jumped in and went full send, right? Perfect. All right. We've got time for a couple more ahas or questions. I know you all have questions.
This
Go
is
ahead.
Kimberly. I have a question.
Yeah.
Hello. So I have a for sale by owner who's interested in selling, but he doesn't want to list with a realtor. He said right now, if he sells his property without fixing it up, he'll sell it for 65. It's in a low-end area, but if he updates it, it'll be 80,000, and he has a few other properties. I guess my thing is I am uncomfortable or insecure with really speaking to him to get him comfortable with listing with me or allowing me to assist him with selling those properties. I've spoken with him and he just said he doesn't want to list right now, but if I can bring a buyer. And with him saying he has a few other properties in Cleveland that he wants to sell, I really want to land this, but I guess I'm uncomfortable with speaking with him or marketing to him in the proper way. I guess I'm not saying that properly, but.
No, I understand where you're coming from. So number one, we need to build your value proposition. I would write this down. Actually, everyone should write this down. What is my value proposition to sellers and what is my value proposition to buyers? We need to be building that. When I first got in the business, I sat down because I kept failing at calling for sale by owners and expires. And I said, what value am I giving them? And I started writing it down. And I had like 1 item or 2 items. And then by the time I was done, I had like 15. And I thought, wow, if I could actually tell this in a story format. I use the example of the VinWiki channel on YouTube, Ed Bullion, How to Tell a Story. The guy has millions of subscribers. If you watch him, he will have 4 parts of how to tell a story and how to intrigue people. If you can learn to deliver your value proposition like that, that will be perfect. That brings me to my second point, Kim, which it's VinWiki, by the way, VINWIKI. And you can just type in VinWiki, how to tell a story. The guy's name is Ed, EDBOLIAN, Ed Bullion.
You spell his last name again?
BOLIAN. And that is probably the most important thing that you can get from a value proposition standpoint. Too often we tell our value proposition just in like, hey, I will take professional photos. You need to explain to them why that's valuable to them, and nothing's more impactful than a story of a previous listing or even somebody else's listing within this office or even outside of this office. This is what happened to this seller. They got professional photography. Here's what ended up happening. It's not that simple that I just put it out there, but spend 30, 45 seconds on that story with them, and they'll talk about exactly how to do it. The other part of that, Kim, is going to be in the absence of value, price is the only conversation. Right? In the absence of value, price is the only conversation, meaning that if all we're trying to do is go after a listing and say, hey, I can just put your house up on the market, we need to be having them understand by listing with us, we're going to have a competitive market. We've had this objection from for sale by owners. I can sell my house this year. No, it was so terrible for a seller to do that. I had a seller tell me this year, Eric, I've already got a buyer. I just need you to handle the closing. It was a $260,000 house. And by the way, Eric, you came over to my house last year and told me it was worth $260,000. I'm sure that if we listed it, you're not going to get more than that. We ended up listing it and sold it for $320,000 this year.
Wow.
The reason we were able to do that, though, was build a competitive market in the MLS. Of course, you can get a buyer. You're not going to get a competitive buyer. And I'll tell you, this is the story you tell them. What do you think that buyer is going to feel when we say, I understand that you like our house and you're offering on it. We're going to put it up on the market, though, and see what happens. Do you think the price in their mind just went high? Absolutely.
Yeah. I suggested that, that he can get more for the property, but he just seemed like he wasn't interested in receiving more. He was comfortable with receiving the set prices, the 65 or the 80.
So
I told him he can get more.
That may be true. I just had a conversation with another agent over the weekend that sometimes people don't want the most money. I know that sounds crazy to many of us. Figure out what they do want and figure out if we can help them achieve that. Obviously, the seller has not achieved their goal because it's still listed for sale by owner.
Well, it's not even listed for sale by owner. When I drive around and I pay attention, I'm always looking at houses, and I saw that at one point there were tenants in this property. And then one day I saw them moving out, and as soon as I did that, I looked up the property and I called the owner. And that's
I would dial in, go what I call 3 deep on the questions. So ask him, like, what is the purpose like that you're entertaining selling it? And then he'll say, well, I'm thinking about selling it because the prices are up. Great. So what would you end up doing if you did sell it? Well, I would probably find another investment property. So now the problem isn't selling the house. The problem is finding another house that he needs to buy. And then if you solve that problem, he's automatically going to list and sell it. The other thing too, there's a big misbelief right now that we can't list homes that are tenant occupied. I would highly encourage, I know that's not your case, Kim. I've sold probably 15 homes this year that were investor owned, that were tenant occupied. We put them up on the market, never had a showing. We refused showings until it was under contract, put them under contract and sold them. It's frustrating to a lot of buyer agents. These are not catered though to homeowners. These are catered to other investors who say, I really don't care about the doorknob that's loose. I care about what's the income at the end of the year going to be and what's the condition if I'm going to have to change anything. Thank you, by the way, Shoshana, for 13% more listing with a realtor versus a for sale by owner. So we double our value, and I don't doubt that at all. I've seen it happen so often. But we have to tell those stories, right? You can use the story I just shared. So you can actually look up the listing. It was on Norton. If you pull up my listing ID and then go to my listing that I had on Norton in Chesterland. I know that seller wouldn't mind you sharing that story either. Was going to sell it for $260, ended up selling it for $320. At a 7% commission, he's still doing very well. And by the way, it's all hands off, didn't have to worry about a single thing. Perfect. Well, it's 10 a.m. We've got an appointment at 10 a.m. to go ahead and start lead generating. So we're going to go into our breakout sessions. If possible, I don't know if this is possible or not, I may jump into each one of your categories and just check in and give you, if you're not making calls, I'm going to ask you to make some calls. I'll work through any issues you've got. But we're all going to get on the phone. By the way, you can call your friends and family. Just let them know if you're brand new in the business, super easy. Hey, I'm a realtor. I'm just looking, I'm new in the business. I'm giving out free price analyses. If you want, I'd be happy to do one at your house. Would you like that? You could also say, hey, if you were to move, I'm just trying to figure out what neighborhoods are hot because I'm new in the business. What neighborhood would you move into? And guess what? They may go, well, you know what? I was just thinking about calling a realtor anyways. I didn't know you were a real estate agent. If you want to call for sale by owners, go to Zillow, look up every for sale by owner, dial their phone number, give them a call, ask them simply, I'm Eric Uchbar. I'm a licensed realtor. I was calling to see if I could apply for the job of selling your home. However you want to do it. There is never somebody we can't call or text or email it. By the way, we can text during this too. I would encourage phone calls are going to be more impactful if you can. Yet, if you need to start off with texts, go for it. Just make sure they're responding. And yeah, let's go ahead and get into our breakout sessions and looking forward. I want to see all 54 of us back in this room, by the way. All right, we are back. Can you guys hear me? Perfect. couple quick things before we break up here. We've got a couple of notes that I had from going from room to room. Make sure that on Thursday, our next session, that you have all of your phone numbers ready to call. Now, if you're calling your MET group, just follow the DTD2 form. That's what Julia emailed us over the weekend. Sorry, thank you. It's Wednesday is the next session. And then we also want to make sure that you have your water, your snacks all ready. I know that, we're only making a half an hour of calls, but typically during lead gen, you don't want to have to leave your lead generation. Like right now, you probably all were like, oh, I was in the middle of a phone call and we had to stop. It's real hard to stop lead generating once we start, oddly enough. So make sure you have your water in front of you, that you don't have to go grab that or coffee or whatever it may be. Something else I noticed, I haven't called on for sale by owners recently on Zillow, and something that they just implemented, I found out, is they are no longer showing the owner's contacts. So what's neat about that is you can now call up a Zillow for sale by owner. We can see that they're advertised. It used to give their contact information. You can now just go to them and say, Mr. and Mrs. for sale by owner, I'm assuming that you're just getting calls from agents. And they'll say yes. And I would then go, do you know why that is? Are you familiar with how Zillow is actually marketing your home? They're actually taking your leads and selling them to agents who are willing to purchase them. I think it's important that you understand how the market works and how you might be getting shortchanged. Why don't we meet tomorrow at 2 o'clock and I'll go over more in detail of how we can actually get you more money even after my commission is paid. That would certainly make sense, wouldn't it? In your conversation, obviously, we don't know how much money that they can make yet. It can almost always be more as a listed property versus something that's a for sale by owner. And that is 100% true. And people go, well, Eric, they want 300 for their house. How can I get them more money? I never said that we're going to get them more money than what it's listed for. I said we're going to get them more money than what they could achieve on their own. They have not sold their home, remember. What other ahas or wins have we had? Go ahead and make sure you're unmuted. Alonzo, I see you're lighting up. I don't know if you're talking or not.
I had a positive contact, Eric. I'm affiliated with the Homes for Heroes. So this client, I didn't get a chance to speak with when they did come through, but now she's interested, and she's also said she knows someone else that may be interested as well. She was asking, oh, do you just deal with those heroes? No, I'm an agent. I deal with one that loves and is ready to do real estate. So she said, okay, well, I do have someone that, that will be a good person that will probably contact you about buying. So
I love that. Really important too, when I have a pipeline lead like that Nikki just had, of like, somebody goes, well, Eric, I know of somebody who is going to buy. I'll actually write down like Bill's friend in my pipeline if I don't know their name, and then I follow up with Bill in a week and say, hey, I didn't hear from your friend. I just want to confirm everything's okay. I want to make sure you have the right number. If you want, I'll give them a call directly. What's his number? A lot of times my contacts will just be like, I'm sick and tired of hearing from Eric. I'll just give them the end conversation. Obviously, they don't put it that way, but you get the point. What other ahas did we have or any wins? Great job, Nikki, by the way.
It's Colleen. I had a great phone call. I just had one person that I ended up talking to the whole time, but it was a grade school friend, and she actually gave me a buyer lead, a seller lead, and is interested in real estate. So it was like a really, really awesome phone call. Like, and I talked to her often, like I talked to her, but I've never really I told her that we were, doing this thing through work, and I'm in a breakout session and I'm calling, and I asked her about her holidays, and then she just said, oh yeah, I know a teacher, and the lady 2 doors down is selling. And it was just unbelievable. So I'm excited.
So Colleen, this is somebody that you do talk to on a semi-regular basis, yet you did not have the specific conversation with.
Yep.
That's what's impactful about jumping into these lead generation sessions when we have a target to go after. So thank you so much for sharing that story.
Yeah.
Again, even though it's not an appointment, that's a real lead that 6 months from now is probably going to close maybe 1 or 2 or possibly more deals.
Yeah.
So
Thanks.
That is awesome. Yeah, thank you for sharing. All right, well, that is 10:30. It's important for us to not only start on time, but to also end on time. Make sure that your phones are charged up, your laptops are charged up for this Wednesday. We're going to hit the ground running, and glad to see everyone here, and hopefully this was impactful for everyone.
Thank you, Eric, and thank you everyone for joining us today. And like Eric said, our next session will be on Wednesday at 9 as well. Same place, same Zoom link, and I will send out the materials to everyone as soon as this call ends. Thank you guys. Have a great rest of your day and Happy New Year.